During this period of the liturgical year that we call Lent, we are confronted with our sinfulness and mortality. And our readings this morning reflect these exacting themes. Our bones are dried up, and our hope is lost. We are cut off completely. The words of the house of Israel from Ezekiel: far away in exile, its holy city of Jerusalem ransacked, its temple destroyed, and its people seemingly forsaken by God. Out of the depths I have cried, O Lord, hear my voice. A profoundly personal prayer from one of several penitential psalms that call out to God for forgiveness. To set the mind on the flesh is death and hostile to God. This authoritative statement of St. Paul confirms the Old Testament experience encapsulated in our first two verses, that individually and collectively we have a systemic disposition to putting ourselves before God and are in need of his mercy. And from John's Gospel. And this is the last one before you get too depressed. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Words of heartache, spoken separately by both sisters of Lazarus. Taken by themselves, these deeply honest verses could lead to despair at the human condition and the frailty of life. And yet, let's see what comes next. God speaks to the valley of dry bones. I will cause breath to enter you, and you shall live. The psalmist: O Israel, trust in the Lord, for with the Lord there is mercy. These Old Testament verses offer more than a flicker of hope. They declare a promise of restoration, of new life that results from the nature and the character of God, in whom the psalmist goes on to say, there is plenteous redemption. And so as we head into the New Testament passages, and as we enter today, Passiontide, the 2 weeks leading up to Easter that focus on the passion, the suffering of Jesus, so we discover the divinely imparted evidence for unfailing hope. St. Paul writes, if Christ is in you, though the body is dead due to sin, the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead will give life to your mortal bodies. And in coming to the grave of Lazarus, Jesus himself proclaims, I am the resurrection and the life. Now, it is quite a journey from despair to hope, from sin to peace, from death to life. And some of you may wonder whether it is possible. Always a dream, but never quite a reality. Like two different countries separated by an ocean of human fallibility, uncertainty, and even fear. You may know in yourselves those swirling waters where wave upon wave of despondency threaten to overwhelm. And concerning the effects of sin and mortality, it's true you cannot offer trite platitudes, for we see the source and the consequences in our families and in ourselves. As Solzhenitsyn described, the line between good and evil cuts through the heart of every living being, every human being, rather. Its results are writ large amongst the family of the nations. And the Christian hope, however extraordinary and counterintuitive even, is that the suffering of Jesus is the remedy for this malaise, the source of healing, that the despair that he embraced became the gateway to our hope. And it's therefore really good on this Passion Sunday to reflect on the saving love of Jesus. The shortest verse in the Bible is one of the most telling. Jesus wept. Used as an expression of profanity by some, it yet speaks of Jesus' compassion, his extraordinary sympathy as he contemplates the loss of his friend and joins the grief of Martha and Mary. Earlier this month, on the 10th anniversary of his elevation to the papacy, Pope Francis was asked, in a popecast no less, about his dreams for the Church, the world, and humanity. He offered 3 words: fraternity, tears, and smiles. We are all brothers and sisters, he said. Learn not to be afraid to weep and to smile. If you can do both, you have your feet on the ground and your gaze on the horizon. If a person has forgotten how to cry, something is wrong. And if that person has forgotten how to smile, it's even worse. Fraternity, tears, and smiles were so evident in the way that Jesus conducted himself in first century Palestine. He rejoiced with those who rejoiced and mourned with those who mourned. He expressed righteous anger. He understood both loneliness and enjoyed companionship. And he demonstrated supreme love because it was not just for his friends, but for his enemies also. And it was therefore his perfect humanity that enabled the divine command. In a loud voice, Jesus exclaimed, "Lazarus, come out!" In a loud voice mirrors the words of Jesus on the cross itself, recorded by the other gospel writers. Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And again, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." In other words, as David Ford puts it, at the tomb of Lazarus, Jesus is expressing the authority of a love that is itself willing to die. Jesus delayed his visit to Bethany so that the glory of God might be revealed and that people would believe in him. Jesus records that many did, as with the other signs that Jesus performed to reveal his identity and his mission. So today, will you turn to the Lord? Will you come to him with all your weakness and foibles, with all your doubts, uncertainties, and fears, hard though it is? as did Mary and Martha, as did the psalmist before, as did St. Paul, as have Pope Francis and innumerable Christians down the ages in every language and culture. And are you prepared for the new life that lets go, that is ready to shake off the grave clothes and to let the Spirit of Christ inhabit you? Perfect love casts out all fear. And it was that perfect love that enabled Jesus to enter the deep waters of death, as we will proclaim in our baptism promises at Easter. And it offers us the strength, ultimately, to journey across the deep divides that lie within us and around us. It builds communities, and it offers life today and for eternity. Such is the passionate love of Jesus. Amen.